Welcome to hell.
What a lovely place to spend an afternoon playing video games. Be it blasting demons with a shotgun, blasting demons with a shotgun, or collecting the ingredients for a recipe on Satan's shopping list. This was the reality for many gamers back in 2022, and apparently content creators who take multiple years to finish some of their videos. Maybe it was a knock-on effect of the immense success of Hades a couple of years earlier, or perhaps it was just the quaint and timeless set piece that is
Eternal damnation.
If you were a part of gaming discourse at any time during 2022, then you almost definitely know about Cult of the Lamb. Despite being a roguelike management sim, the roguelike gameplay is about as deep as a two-piece jigsaw puzzle, and the management sim elements rarely go far beyond feeding and cleaning up the turds of your cultists, making it fairly reminiscent of a late 90s Tamagotchi. Now, if you're not familiar with a Tamagotchi, that was the schoolyard craze sometime in between yo-yos and those squidgy water ball things with the stretchy cords, where parents could breathe a sigh of relief that the latest playground trend wasn't at risk of getting wrapped around their child's neck. Now, whilst that might sound like a fairly scathing review of Cult of the Lamb, and perhaps a peek into some apparently unresolved issues of my childhood, Cult of the Lamb is still a good game, regardless of it being as shallow as an Instagram model who demands free products because of their huge double-digit follower count. You see, Cult of the Lamb is quite clever in its way of drip-feeding you dopamine in the same way that MMOs and looter shooters do, in so much as you've always got something to aim for. You want to upgrade a building in your cult? Then you need to go dungeon crawling and get some materials. You want to convert one of your followers into an assistive demon to benefit your dungeon crawling? Well, then you need to upgrade a building in your cult first. And in its own merry hell loop, that is basically Cult of the Lamb from start to finish. And it's only fair to mention that this game oozes charm. As someone who doesn't really care one way or the other for cute or chibi art styles, Cult of the Lamb does a great job of blending the adorable with the admonishable. The thing is, I have sort of instantly broken my own rule for this video here, because the game opens up with the player character being saved from purgatory by the ominous One Who Waits, and it takes place in the mysterious lands of the old faith. So, whilst you do spend the whole game looting, murdering, sacrificing followers, and summoning demons, I think it would be ambiguous at best to declare this setting as in hell. But one game very unambiguously in hell is Metal Hellsinger. I mean, it's right there in the name. In fact, to make up for my faux pas on Cult of the Lamb, this game takes place in no fewer than 10 hells. Heck, to even play the game, you have but one single unary pleonastic choice to make. Enter hell. Alas, poor Yorick. In Hellsinger, you play as a voiceless, pissed-off demon, referred to only as unknown. The thing that sets Hellsinger apart from other games is its prefix, metal. I'm not saying you have to love metal music to enjoy this game, but it probably helps. After all, this is a metal rhythm FPS set to the backdrop of some pretty metal original metal tracks, featuring metal members of some of metal's most metal bands, like Trivium, System of a Down, and Arch Enemy. Did I mention metal yet? In an ever-growing sea of Doom-likes and so-called boomer shooters, it becomes increasingly difficult to stand out. No matter how good the gunplay, mobility, or moment-to-moment action might be in these games, a lot of the time the formula just feels like walk down this corridor, walk into this room, have a plan to kill everybody you meet, repeat. But the rhythm element of Hellsinger adds, for me at least, an extra focus, an extra layer of complexity that makes the game so much more engaging. Sure, it feels good to lob a monster's head off with your akimbo boomerang battle axes, but it feels especially good slaying perfectly on beat, earning multipliers every bad guy you defeat. The reward is epic vocals when your combo is complete.
I'm still here.
If it wasn't clear already, I loved my time with Metal Hellsinger. Great music, great gameplay, great visuals, and the game even has great narration.
This soul came to hell just like a tune comes into your head. Nobody knew why or where from. Oh, they knew. She had a score to settle.
If that voice sounds familiar to you, it's not because the devil went down to Georgia, and it's not because this is Engineer's voice actor from TF2, but it is in fact Troy Baker. Someone who, if you don't already know by name, you will definitely know something that he's voice acted in, because his Wikipedia list of video game appearances alone is longer than the entire pages of some countries, and it's nothing to do with sounding like engineer.
Nope.
If a fiery, hellish Doom-like where you sync your shots to metal music sounds familiar, then you might be thinking of Bullets Per Minute, which launched 2 years before Metal Hellsinger to the day. So, why isn't BPM being featured in this video, minus the fact that, very much like this video, it wasn't released in 2022? Well, simply because Metal Hellsinger has a demo. I cannot stress how valuable a demo is in deciding whether I buy a game or not. In a world where tens, if not hundreds of games release every week, and AAA developers respect their players' time less and less, an opportunity to actually try a game to see if I like it, and not have to test the patience of Steam's refund team even more than I already have, this is a real email by the way, is truly an opportunity that I value. But this isn't a video about my love for consumer-friendly business practices. It's about bloody hell. And what's more hellish than a lovely piece of pie? Longtime fans and relatively new fans of the channel will know that I love 3D platformers. More than I love shooters, more than I love metal music, heck, more than I love references to my childhood. So that's why I love Hell Pie, for being the perfect blend of Super Mario Sunshine, Spyro the Dragon, and the toilet humor I had as a preteen. It is a tale as old as time. You are a demon named Nate, affectionately referred to as the 8th deadly sin of bad taste, and you have been tasked with helping make a birthday pie for the devil himself. Thus, you enslave a grossly overfed yet perpetually chirpy angel named Nugget, and you traverse your way through various realms, including Satan's supermarket, a beachside sewer system with anthropomorphic poops, a mountainside resort which is almost definitely a Twisted Studio Ghibli reference, and even the darkest hell of them all. The IT department. The gross humor is thick and relentless, and I can definitely see how some people would bounce off the game because of it. But just like the gelatinous blobs of a recently exploded whale carcass, Hell Pie stuck to me fast. Gameplay involves an ever-increasing arsenal of platforming tricks and acrobatics that you acquire by collecting dog food for your buddy Nugget, and by shredding the living bodies of the real-life in-game equivalents of Unikitty from the Lego Movie. The combined result is an amazing amount of platforming freedom that builds at a steady pace throughout your travels. And of course, a whole bunch of collectibles required and optional are scattered all along the way. It is true that collectathons went out of fashion some time ago, and there's even been revival attempts that have fallen kind of flat, but I don't know whether it was the right game at the right time for me, or maybe just the right amount of poop-based content for a now 30-something whose sense of humor stopped developing around 15 years ago. But Hell Pie is the absolute embodiment of fun as hell, in my humble pie opinion. Or should I say, humble opinion. Please don't unsubscribe. But if Hell Pie's deadly sin is not taking itself very seriously, our next game is definitely guilty of the opposite. Neon White casts you as the titular demon, Neon White, plucked from hell to run obstacle courses for the entertainment of heaven's population of angels. At least I think that's what the story is. Unfortunately, it was so unbearably, and I don't use this word lightly, so please believe me when I say this, cringe, that I had the cutscenes on permanent fast forward after the first 10 minutes of playing.
Cold, hard metal in my hands, that hint of danger, your hot breath on the back of my neck.
I did kind of regret this decision for a moment when the story seemed to take a sharp twist a few hours in, but the bombardment of edgy anime lovestick tropes that I caught even through the sped-up conversations reminded me pretty quickly that I'd made the right choice. The right choice for me, at least. Plenty of other people have mentioned how much they did enjoy the story and characters, so just because some Welsh bellend on the internet doesn't like a thing, that absolutely doesn't mean that you can't like it yourself. But the good news is that you don't have to like the story, because, much like Hans Niemann's chess, the gameplay speaks for itself. Just like with 3D platformers, I've talked in the past on this channel about what I like to call ninja warrior simulators. Games where the player is encouraged into the mythical flow state, typically achieved in real life only by elite parkour athletes who make ninja warrior courses look like they're being run by a Jesus lizard over a perfectly still pond. And despite there definitely being some room for the Neon White developers to learn a thing or two from Game Maker's Toolkit's video about Celeste, the game is still an excellent entry into the ninja warrior simulator subcategory of platformers. And on top of that, Neon White has a unique mechanic which involves these floating cards, each representing a gun, and a corresponding movement ability. After picking up a card, you've got two simple options: left click to shoot the gun, or right click to consume it and activate its movement ability. Guns range from pistols to shotguns to rocket launchers, and the abilities go from a small vertical jump to a fat-bottomed ground pound, all the way up to a massive high-speed grappling hook and beyond. The goal of each level is to get to the end and leave no survivors. This simple premise combines with the aforementioned gun cards and leads to an exciting series of fast-paced decisions as you assault the course. With that said, on most levels, the intended solution is pretty obvious, especially as you can only hold 3 cards at a time, and the cards are always placed throughout the level in exactly the order you need them. But to get the platinum medal for speed, as well as find and reach the secret collectible on every stage, you will have to partake in some creative strategies. And if, like me, there's a handful at the end of the game you just couldn't work out on your own, you'll be kicking yourself after you look up the solution and realize that the cards were literally right in front of you the whole damn time. Also, I think this cigar-smoking cat is God. Again, I didn't really listen to the story, but heck, do I love cats. I love cats. Best of all the animals, I love cats. They're my friends. Despite these games' hellish themes, I think perhaps the best representation of what gaming hell was really like in 2022 and beyond is Overwatch 2. Now wait, hold on, let me explain. Overwatch 1 was this critically and commercially beloved 6 vs 6 hero shooter, with free access to every single new hero on the day of release. Extremely easy to get pretty much any cosmetic you wanted with the currency from the in-game loot boxes, which also dropped regularly for free, and they themselves contained even more cosmetics. And it was a game whose active new feature releases only slowed down when the developers started working on a massively involved player versus environment mode, with story and missions and skill trees and all sorts of promising features that the game's players were, for the most part, pretty excited about. Overwatch 2, on the other hand? More like Overwatch you. Gone is the gameplay, for better or worse. Gone are free heroes, unless you buy the battle pass first. Gone are the cosmetics you could ever get for free. Gone was the entire concept of PvE. Seriously, they paused development on Overwatch 1 for literally years to work on a PvE mode, which was used as the entire justification for slapping a 2 on the game's name. And then they released none of it. They deleted Overwatch 1 and replaced it with a 5 vs 5 game, with the only other meaningful changes being that all the stuff that you used to get for free now costs money. They actually had thousands of players crying out for the return of loot boxes. That is how badly they messed up. A series of decisions so unpopular that now, over 3 years later, they've reversed pretty much every single one of them. Now, you don't have to just take my word for it, as the game famously got massively review bombed when it eventually launched on Steam in August 2023. Or did it? Find out in the next episode of Casper Vision. See, if I hadn't procrastinated 3 years on making this, I never could have made that segue. Be sure to subscribe so you can be the first to see the finale episode of this inaugural season when it launches next week. Or if you're watching this in the future, click the link on screen right now.